What's up, guys? Kris and Rob here of the Jersey Comic Crew. Thank you so much for clicking on this episode. It's a lot longer. It's a lot different. And what we're doing is we're kind of doing our old school like podcast stuff, Rob. We have guys, we have things we want to talk about that we never get to talk about because we're too busy making real content for you guys and polished content as much as we can.
Watch that stuff. I work hard on it.
And we just want to talk about some of the stuff we never get to talk about, like comics and things going on in the industry and news. So, and if you guys think of any like name, we haven't really named it yet. This is so new. Let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe, do all that fun shit. But Rob, I want to talk comics, man. Like, what are you reading right now? What's going on in the world of Rob? What is he reading?
I gotta show you stuff. So I've been on like an indie comic binge for a while because some mainstream comics are not doing as good as they should be doing.
DC.
Yes, DC. It's some of Marvel stuff. The Secret 7 is a comic I've been reading. 18's not out yet. It's a limited series, only 18 issues from Boom Studios. I know, like, what does Boom make besides Power Rangers?
Yeah,
I was looking online and seeing what new comics are out there, and like this comic series caught my eye. It was like very bright colors and stuff. The whole premise of this book, Kris, is there's 7 secrets in the world. There's a keeper and a holder. It's like a team of 2, like the Secret Ops team. One person's holding it, the other person's defending it, and each secret has its own unique thing. We've learned now throughout this series that like one is like a country destroyer and destroys all of Sweden. I was like, oh, that's cool. Apparently
that's cool. Mass murder. It's great.
One is a magical portal to the fairy world. Another one is like some other power thing. Another one that reads the future.
Great description, Rob. Great
description. Bro, it's so secretive. It's like, all right, you're gonna find out the last 3 issues. I'm behind. I'm on issue 15. This is the main character. He's like a forbidden love in a secret society. He was like the kid of like these 2 random parents. I really enjoy this book. It surprised me how good it was. I was like, all right, I'm gonna give it 1 issue. And with indie books, I usually give it like 3 issues because, you know, it takes some time to wrap up. By issue 3, I was hooked. There was an invasion. There was like mass murder. There was spies, love, trauma. Fantastic. He gets magical powers towards the end. I'm like, all right, this book's fantastic.
Okay, that's what it was. The love stuff is what got you.
Forbidden love, it got me.
Oh, even better, forbidden love.
Yeah, and then they were
the
like
Shakespearean of love.
It was with him. They were like, you either have to quit being holders and you have to give up the secret and probably die, or you're gonna have to give up your baby. They were like, here's the baby. I'm like, ah! And then they took the berry and got raised in like a fairy world. It was like weird shit, man. It was so good though.
That sounds all over the place.
I'm saying it all over the place because I just binge read like 15 issues today. But it's fantastic. I highly recommend it.
The beginning sounded very like hardcore, like, oh, this is like secret society stuff. And I'm like, it doesn't really match the art style that I'm looking at here. And then you got into like the fairy world and like the magical powers. I'm like, oh, okay, now it's starting to make that seems pretty serious. So like little Illuminati looking.
Yeah, these are other cases for the weapons. And then if we go back,
mix of like Umbrella Academy or something.
Yeah.
The covers are nice.
Yeah, the covers is
boom.
the covers drew me in, and this is the villain, and that's a guy in the order.
This looks like Power Rangers. Who does the covers? Is it Dan Mora? Oh, he did Power Rangers. Yeah, I know him. Yep, he did the interiors for Power Rangers.
But Tom Taylor's writing it, and like I don't think I've read anything with Tom Taylor that I didn't fall in love with.
Yeah.
But very good series. The other thing I've been reading is Crossover. If you read comic books all the time, you know who writers and artists are. You're going to love this. Our world gets combined with the comic book world. And then comic book characters start killing comic book writers. And it turns out there's some man behind this.
Is Donnie just killing people? He doesn't.
No. Watch this. And Donnie's like trying to stop it, trying to work with the comic book characters. He's writing things, and the story's not going his way. He controls some things, but not everything. Like, you see Robert Kirkman gets killed, Brian Michael Bendis, all this kind of stuff. It is such a good book. And spoiler for this book, right? This last issue. We find out finally, like, all right, who's behind it? And he's like, oh, I think I know who it is. And I'm like, all right. He's like, you know, writers write the books, but who makes the comic book? Who is doing this? It's not the writer. It's the people who draw. It's Jeffrey Shaw. I think Jeffrey Shaw is killing everybody. I was like, this is insane. I can't wait for the next issue. Everybody who's a diehard comic fan needs to pick this up and enjoys it. It's fantastic.
Oh, and Mark Waid's editing it too. That's a lot.
It's so good, man.
Hickman's doing stuff.
Hickman's doing variant, and like they've had other artists like put their little 2 cents in there. Donnie goes into this a little bit in this particular book, talks about his deal with addiction, and how he beat addiction, and how art once like after a certain while it's no longer the artist's art. It belongs to the society, belongs to everybody else, and It's like they have the power, they have the control, and the artists don't. And it gives a real introspective look on like the artist versus the art. So that was really cool just to see in this kind of comic. But overall, very good. So like Kris, like out of these two, both are really good. I know you'll appreciate this more because you're gonna know all the writers in it, and it's gonna reference like other Image books like God Country, Walking Dead, all this kind of stuff. The other book is very good. It's only 18 issues, and it's a lot of fun. That's like your popcorn kind of book. This one is definitely like you're gonna buy the trade and you're gonna have it in your collection because it's that good for diehard comic fans.
Now, I think we talked about this before. Are you a top of the stack down guy or a bottom of the stack up guy? Meaning, do you put your most like anticipatory reads on top to read first, or are you someone who has to read the stuff that's not as good or not as fun or not as exciting you and leave it on the bottom? I'm a top down guy. I got to read that stuff first.
I do mix. So it depends what kind of mood I'm in. Usually I do the worst stuff first.
Okay.
So that way it's like, yeah, all right, I got through this, and now here's my treat. But I kind of...
the dessert, the eat your vegetables to get your dessert mentality.
I've kind of adopted this new strategy, and I've kind of deemed it the sandwich. And it's like, bad book.
You can't just call things sandwiches, Rob.
I just did. I'm fat, and I'm allowed to do it.
This is how wars begin.
I'm fat, and I'm allowed to do it. I'm embracing my fat. I came out the closet as fat, like Bert Kreischer came out as fat. I'm coming out as fat.
Just please keep your shirt on.
I am.
It's already trademarked with it.
I can't steal it from him. He's gonna get mad. He's gonna send his.
You have to do like pants or something else.
Oh, that's too much. That's the OnlyFans content right there.
There you go.
But the sandwich method, it's like bad, then good, then bad, and I usually do like one good book, two like bad or average books, and then another good book. It depends how big my stack is, right? If I'm only having 5 books or 4 books, I'm like the good one is going to be on the top and bottom, and the rest is going to be filler. And so that way, it's like I get a nice sandwich in there. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm the opposite. I'm just like, give me the best stuff of the week. Immediately, I have to be caught up on this, and I have to know what's going on, and then I will chip away at the other stuff. But that's just me. Yeah. So
what about you? Any books that you want to talk about?
Yeah, reading? Man. You know me. I be reading every week. Be going to my local comic shop. The Hulk versus Thor event just started, and funny enough, that's also Donnie Cates.
It is.
And Banner of War started, so it's interesting because Thor is in a different place than Hulk is right now. Like Hulk's like 6 issues in of Donnie's run, while Thor's like 25 or 26 issues in, and basically, as we know, like if you've been reading Hulk, spoiler alert, you know, yada yada, Hulk has been taken over by Bruce Banner inside of his own mind somehow.
Yes.
And he's using the Hulk as kind of like this interplanetary dimensional spaceship, and is flying through multiverses and can raise his rage level by notches, and it causes the Hulk inside of its head to start fighting stuff. We just found out the Hulk has a Hulk.
That was pretty cool, yeah.
In the last issue. And on the other side, on the flip side, Thor is, as usual, been through hell because he's Thor. Odin just died officially and is now inside of Mjolnir.
Yeah.
And Thor can hear him, but he's the only one who can. And Thor had to deal with Donald Blake, who escaped and went insane. He had to deal with Mjolnir, who apparently there was this goddess inside of Mjolnir that escaped and went insane, and combined with the dead man god. It was
this book. This book it's good. My only concern is, you know, like Odin, like spoilers, right? Odin goes into the Hulk bodies talking to Bruce. Cool idea. I like that. It's a pretty cool concept. I don't understand, and maybe this is a lack of direction for my part. Like, I don't see where this goes for Hulk afterwards. Like, I understand. Like, I understand Hulk. Like, and Banner's like, all right, I'm gonna control Hulk. He's just a weapon to me. And like, now I'm gonna download all the fights, and I'm gonna learn how everybody fights, and I'm gonna be like the best version I've ever been. But like, that doesn't really evolve the whole character, if you will. Like, I know there's gonna be some angle that I don't realize. With Thor, like him coming into his powers, dealing with the stuff with his father. Like, I feel like that storyline is a much it's more well-rounded, if you will, right? And I'm like, I get it, I vibe with it, it's cool. And maybe because Donnie's run on Hulk is just so new and I don't know where it's going. And when you compare that to like Al Ewing's run right before that, which was phenomenal, I'm like, all right, what are we doing here? This seems weird. I don't see the end goal. The end goal is too hard and convoluted to see. So I don't know if I'm probably gonna enjoy this Banner of War arc. I don't think it's gonna be as good as it's being prompted to be.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be what Al Ewing did with Hulk, right? I think that's set in stone. Donnie's coming on afterwards, the same way, Ram V is coming on to Venom after Donnie just killed it on Venom. I don't think you could kind of follow up. I think part of it is definitely that there's only been like 6 or so Hulk issues.
Yeah.
But I think the point of this is more for Hulk than Thor. I think Thor is eventually, through this crossover thing with Donnie's books, I think it's going to purge Bruce Banner from the Hulk's mind. I think the point is to get kind of this new direction for Hulk and figure out what Hulk's Hulk is and figure out if Banner's a good guy or a bad guy. And Banner's like seeing dead Betty in his head too.
Yeah,
like
weird.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot that's being set up. I think this is going to be a catalyst for that, and also kind of way for both of them to blow off steam, as you saw in the issue, because they're both just wrapped up in anger and emotion.
Yeah.
But I think for Thor, it's kind of a break from all of that.
Okay.
And for Hulk, it's more of a catalyst to move the story forward. So there are different points. I think after this, Hulk is going to have some new direction with Donnie where he's going to focus him. I don't think this, spaceship Hulk thing is going to be forever. And for Thor, I mean, who knows? We know the Avengers are going to hit Judgment Day soon, so he's going to be a part of that. But I'm sure Judgment Day is going to be the big Marvel event this summer with the Avengers, the X-Men, and the Eternals, which was set up in the Free Comic Book Day issue. And
what's that all about?
Partially in Eternals. I'm actually, out of all the events that are coming out, that's the one I'm most interested in, most hopeful for.
Okay.
Number one, Kieran Gillen's writing it, and if you guys haven't read anything by Kieran Gillen, he's fantastic. He's one of the best. One of the best Darth Vader runs he did. His Eternals is great. His Immortal X-Men that just came out is fantastic. He is kind of coming back into the Marvel fold, and it seems like the fans, including myself, are very happy about it. But I think with all these events, I think that one's the most promising. Basically, the premise is the biggest secret in the Marvel Universe right now is that the X-Men have figured out death. They figured out a way to keep living. And Krakoa,
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's secret to humanity. It's secret to non-mutants. It's really only known within all the mutants. And there was, that stuff with Ben Urich trying to investigate it, and then he got his mind wiped.
Yeah, I still don't know if they actually, if they're, not... if their consciousness are being transferred over. I think it was just the memories. There has to be a result. That's what this is basically going to come to fruition. And the Eternals are on the other side. If you haven't read Eternals, it's basically they're dealing with another issue because the Eternals, once they die, they get reborn as well. But they found out when it happens, in order for them to be reborn, someone on Earth has to die. So when they die, they're killing people, and they just found out they've been doing this for centuries. And just accidentally murdering people randomly. So maybe the mutants are doing that too.
And so we don't know, but what's going to come to fruition is the Avengers, the Eternals, all of them are going to realize, oh shit, the X-Men figured out death, and they're selling their products to allow people with cancer to live longer, but not cure it. Right? Yeah. They become almost a big business. They become health insurance in America.
Which is good. I like it.
It's a really interesting concept. So it's kind of like X-Men versus Eternals, where the Eternals is we've been through this shit. We know what's going on here.
Yeah.
You cannot do this way. The X-Men are screw you. We've been hunted forever.
Dude,
And then the Avengers are in the middle kind of trying to navigate.
Peace.
So we'll see what happens.
It sounds good. I just don't care about the Eternals. They're not good. Anytime I try to read them, I'm just maybe it's there's not a good enough story or creative team, but I've tried to pick up.
What?
I picked up this most recent one. I've read 5 issues. I stopped. I was this is just bad.
You're in the minority then, sir. You are in the minority.
The art's terrible.
The art's great. It's Eastside Ribbon.
He's doing terrible in this. I'll pull it up right now.
He's doing fantastic. You're in the minority because this is an intellectual book. It's not an action book.
And that's fine.
It's a lot of words. I know people have been complaining because like it has the same thing that the X-Men have had, where it's like there's a lot of reading blocks in it. Like pages where it's just like an explanation. It's one of Marvel's best books right now. It is like it is world building. It's thought provoking. I think it's really good. I'm not saying that's going to means that Judgment Day is going to be good. It's an event that hasn't come out yet. We don't know. If you've been reading comics for the last 10 to 12 to 15-ish years, you kind of know how events are with Marvel and DC at this point, right? They're going to be there every year now. It's going to be
this is it, right? This is the series?
Yeah, that's the series.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal book for like comic fans like me and a lot of other people I know I've talked to and who love it too. So I think it's a great book
for you guys.
I mean, if you don't like it, you don't like it.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Fine.
Yeah.
Like everyone reads their own stuff, but I think it's one of the most important Marvel books right now. It's explaining a lot. It's a lot more world building. It's a lot more Marvel universe relatable than just kind of some of the smaller stories where you feel like they're just going arc to arc, going from villain to villain and kind of just mundanely. But I'd say out of the events that are going on right now, which would be Judgment Day we're getting ready for, DC has Dark Crisis, which I am not excited for at all.
DC's been trash with all the books. I haven't enjoyed anything.
The other one, which is like the semi-event for DC, is Flashpoint Beyond, which I think has started well. Like you and I have talked about that some too,
yeah,
right?
I don't care about it at all. Like it's
at all. Like you're not even curious.
I'm gonna read it. Like I think it's fun, cool. Like I've read the Zero issue and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Did you read one yet?
I read one.
What'd you think of one? Yeah, I mean it's not bad.
It's not good.
It's not great. No, but it's very Jeff Johns setup, right? It's very Jeff Johns. Like, hey, there's always a bigger picture with Jeff Johns. Like, there's always something. The problem is they are starting. One, it's a book that's a sequel to a massive event that came out almost 20 years ago now, which is crazy to say.
Yeah, it's way too late. I felt like this is a book that should have came out forever ago. And there's after the City of Bane arc, where like Thomas Wayne just disappears and then something happens with Infinite
and
Frontier, the button, Doomsday Clock. All this was just handled so poorly. Yeah. I don't even care about like any of this. Well, like we could just move on. We don't need to keep touching this.
I think a part of it is business related too, right? Like a part of it's just DC has been handled so poorly when it comes to Warner Brothers, when it comes to the company being bought out every 2 years, right? Now it's under Discovery. AT&T did nothing with it, and there's no connectivity, there's no cohesiveness. Jeff Johns was way more together during the New 52, whether you like the New 52 or not. I liked some things in the New 52 and didn't like some things in the New 52.
I liked Jeff Johns' run in the New 52 when he was doing that.
Justice League?
When he was doing Justice League. But here's a hot take. I don't think Jeff Johns has been good writing for a while. I think the last, like, in comics, I think the last good thing that I could really say that he did was New 52 Justice League.
I think there's a difference between his writing and DC abandoning storylines. So I think The Button was a good story that he wrote. I think DC abandoned it because they didn't know which direction to go to, and they weren't sure if they were going to push that with their movie stuff and their TV stuff. And they went from that to Doomsday Clock. Also issues in the back end, right? Getting the book out on time, getting a schedule down.
So like
Doomsday Clock, I don't think was great by any means at all. You see it in Flashpoint Beyond, right? There's that board that Batman in the Zero issues writing on.
Yeah.
And you see 5G with a giant mark in it and it says like averted or something. Like it just, there's no direction. So like regardless if the writing's good or not, the storylines aren't good because nothing is getting connected and everything's getting abandoned.
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair statement. I pulled up his bibliography, Wikipedia. Thank you. And I'm trying to look here because everybody says Jeff Johns is godly and amazing. I'm like, yeah, I remember. I enjoy some Jeff Johns things.
Yeah.
And when I'm looking at like this list of things here, which is probably not all accurate, 3 Jokers. I think that's a direction issue, not necessarily him writing issue.
Yeah.
The new Flash was fine that he was doing. It's okay. Doomsday Clock was terrible. I don't even think we needed it. Rebirth, I was like, Batman Earth 1, Forever Evil was okay.
I would say Rebirth on is where the direction of DC itself was ridiculous.
I looking
if
at
not,
like this
if
list,
not Doomsday Clock on.
I could definitely see like the issues more DC direction versus Jeff Johns writing, because like Flashpoint's fantastic, just like reading it on its own and stuff
by
like
itself.
that. Infinite Crisis is good. All these other comics,
Aquaman was really good.
Oh, Blackest Night and Brightest Day were fantastic. Those are probably my favorite things. Probably the only Green Lantern event books that I think are even worth putting in your collection. But other than that, I'm like, I don't need all this other stuff. But putting it in your context, I get it. It's DC not allowing the creators to have the correct vision that they want. So me saying Jeff Johns is overrated is not necessarily fair to him. It should be more accurate. I should say like DC's letting down the creators, and we're seeing that as a trend right now.
Well, that's also why you're seeing like DC has nobody, right? Like Marvel has people and Indie has people. DC has Josh Williamson left,
good,
who's been doing more indie stuff.
Yeah, he's good.
And they are so lucky Chip Zdarsky is on an exclusive deal with Marvel because they're getting him to do Batman starting next month. That's really it. And Jeff Johns is starting to kind of write little things here and there again, which I'm sure Jeff was also pissed that he didn't really have a lot to do, right? Like, or the direction was off, or something. This guy is like the Kevin Feige of DC in a lot of ways, where he is just a DC historian. He's been there forever. He's worked with, since he worked with Richard Donner. He was like his assistant on the old Superman movies. So like this guy knows DC, loves DC. I just don't think the business direction and all that going forward. And again, DC is kind of shit in the bed when it comes to their content and when it comes to their keeping their creators around, right? Like Tinian left, basically. Snyder needed a break. He's gone for a while. Like Lord knows what the hell Bendis is doing anymore. Like,
he's just.
I can't.
I don't need Bendis on anymore. But like Bendis has done some great stuff in the past. Him coming to DC and destroying Jonathan Kent was a stab to my face. And like maybe I stopped reading it, and like everybody's telling me it's terrible. Like, and Superman was unreadable. He's like, oh, I want to make Naomi, make her an important character, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, all right, cool. Just don't sacrifice Superman and Jonathan Kent. This whole freaking storyline with Jonathan Kent and him being like aged up, it just destroyed. I was like, you just destroyed like so much stuff. Like, why are we doing this? Like him with Damian, we should have focused on that angle and keep going. Let Pete Tomasi take that and run with it and build up that sector.
And they stopped it because, we got Bendis. Sorry, Pete Tomasi, go over here.
Right? And it's like the other stuff, like with Robin and Teen Titans and Titans Academy and Robin solo book. Teen Titans Academy is a little weak right now, but like still, like they're building that side of it. I'm like, cool. How great would Jonathan be in friggin' Teen Titans Academy, getting trained by all these kids and doing this stuff? Fantastic. Instead, he's doing whatever nonsense he's doing. I don't even know what he's doing.
Yeah, and this is why I think Marvel's just better quality of book, not paper, but better quality of book. Like really for DC, all I'm reading is the event stuff and Joker's and Batman.
Great. Yeah.
That's the best stuff they have, and Batman's okay. It's not great. I'm excited for Chip. I'm really excited for Chip. But Marvel really has that kind of tie right now, and they have the heavy hitters. Like Donny Cates is killing it right now. Al Ewing just finished one of the greatest runs, if not the greatest run of Hulk of all time.
Yeah.
You have these, and they have new people that are coming in and doing stuff. The X-Men have expanded to this crazy, like, there's like 7 X-Men books right now. It's so hard to keep up.
And so many of them are good. Like,
and a lot of them are very good. Jerry Dugan's really good on the regular X-Men book.
Yeah, man.
Kieran Gillen just started Immortal X-Men, which is really good if you haven't read that first issue.
I liked it. It was good.
X-Men Red first issue was really good.
Oh my god! Wow, how did we not talk about X-Men Red? The freaking the Mars X-Men essentially, and all the stuff with Storm dealing with it. Fantastic.
Being the queen, and then she destroyed, like she Game of Thrones the chair with lightning. It was so great.
Nah, we're not doing this. And she's making her own brotherhood, essentially, because she's like, all right, we don't need X-Men. We need a brotherhood.
And Magneto found a friend.
He did.
I was so happy. He has a fisherman friend who's probably going to turn out to be some awful human being and betray him.
I'm sure. But I like the idea for X-Men Red, for Storm, like a brotherhood is what that planet needs. Is because the traditions of that planet, it's all war. It's like if you beat this person, you're in charge and all this kind of stuff. That makes sense. Having a brotherhood of mutants, like that fits the theme and the tone for that Mars. No, it's not Krakoa, an Akrakoa world.
Arakko,
yeah.
I think.
For those of you guys who don't know what I'm friggin' talking about, mutants recent in comics may have their own island, who's also a mutant, on Earth, and now on Mars, it's the counterpart island. They used to love each other, used to hate each other. It's weird. It's also a mutant, and it's terraformed Mars, and now there's mutants on Mars with like this other alien race from another dimension. Don't worry about it, but it's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, and I think X-Men post Judgment Day. I'm kind of more interested post the event now because
what's going to happen? Yeah,
because if they're not allowed to revive each other, you go back to, which was kind of one of my original questions when Hickman was doing the book. How do you create the tension of them going to fight? How do you create that? You know, if no one dies, if everyone's basically Wolverine, how do you create that kind of, oh man, they may not come out of this one kind of thing, right?
I think the status quo for X-Men after Judgment Day?
Yeah, Judgment Day.
After Judgment Day, it's still going to set up like economically, politically, everything's going to be the same. We're just going to have more stakes. It's like, all right, you can't die. That's it. Yeah. Like you die and you're done.
Or someone dies and like they're just dead.
No, they're just dead.
Which comics doesn't like to do, but if they're just dead for at least a while.
Yeah, as much as I love the mutants and all this kind of stuff, that them dying and coming back, I'm not really a big fan of. The only thing I could think of, the workaround would be like, all right, instead of us going, we're gonna create like a plant carbon copy of you, and that's gonna go, and you're gonna be able to autopilot in the battle, and then like if
like mentally,
yeah, if it gets destroyed, you're like back in the thing, you're like, oh my god, okay, I know what to do, and maybe that could be the workaround. And sometimes they use those like almost like LMDs.
That'd be cool.
I think that's what X-Men should do. You don't know if it's a real person or an LMD or like a plant LMD. And they're like a Krakoan LMD, if you will.
A Krakoan MD.
Yeah, they're gonna have to do something like that, because I like the fact that they can't die and like they could just kill themselves and do all this crazy stuff. But there has to be like,
there's like, I'm bored today, and just jump off a cliff.
There has to be some kind of repercussions.
Like I just want to see how long I can hold my breath.
Here it is. So like Kid Omega, right? Fantastic, strong mutant. He does a lot of cool stuff. He's a telepath, and every time he dies and he comes back, he's like, all right, I want you to change my hairline, so when I come back, it's here. And like, I want you to do this and this and this. So he has all these like stipulations, so he comes back the way he wants to. And it's like, oh, it's gene manipulation, which makes sense for X-Men. But it's like also at the same time, it's like, all right, you're kind of taking the fun out of being a superhero. You got to have stakes, right? And it's, you can't have your cake and eat it too. And the X-Men have been doing that for a little while. So it's I guess it's time to have some stakes.
Yeah, I think it's going to be time to... Who's hungry?
Me.
I think it's going to be interesting to see that kind of come to fruition, right? Where it's like, hey, we killed like, what is it? They call it like the 5 or something that are able to regenerate the mutants. If they get wiped out,
that's
you're kind of screwed, right? Like, is that just the catalyst of keeping this right now? Is it just those 5 that if they die, it's gone?
Yeah, maybe.
So if they get taken out in Judgment Day or whatever the hell happens, I'm sure it'll be done well because the teams that are on it seem to be really good. Yeah. But again, it is an event. I'm very cautious with events, especially for the last decade or so.
They're either really good or they're a waste of time.
But yeah. So guys, that was our chat about comics, what we're reading right now. This will probably be longer in the future. Rob and I are going to keep going into the laboratory and tinkering around and figuring this out. But let us know if you like this kind of podcast, easygoing style, just catching up. We'll definitely have more news next time.
Yeah.
And we're going to do this probably every time there's a little bit of a lull, right? We know there's a bunch of shows coming up. We're going to be covering them.
Yep.
Do not worry. That is all going to be covered here on the channel. But this is also stuff just to kind of talk about other stuff we love to talk about, which is actual comic book reading, the news going on in our industry and stuff like that. So let us know if you like it. Give us a thumbs up, like as always. Helps the channel a lot. If you're new, subscribe, turn on notifications. Don't miss anything on the channel. It will always be here. And as always, I'm Chris Heller. That's Rob Moran. We're the Jersey Comic Crew, and we'll see you next time.